So I used to do mortgages before I got into selling real estate. And a lot of times people are like, well, mortgages have changed a lot since you got out of mortgage origination. And they're right. But the basic principles have kind of stayed the same over the years. So I'll give you an example of how my experience as a mortgage originator has helped me when it comes to listing and selling homes. I had a buyer and they were interested in a listing that I had that was priced at $1.2 million. It was a 300-acre farm in Rogersville, and it actually had two different homes on it. One home was just an old farmhouse, 2 bedroom, 1 bath. It was currently rented. And then the other home was a much nicer home, very elaborate in some of the things that were in this house. Gorgeous views of the hillside. You had several outbuildings, you had several ponds, you had fencing, a lot of the farm stuff that you would think of on 300 acres. I had spent 5 or 6 hours with this buyer, talking to them, showing them the property, letting them get a feel for it, and they were prepared to make an offer on it. And so I asked her, I'm like, okay, so I know you've said you've been pre-approved. Who's your lender on this? Who are you going through? And she told me Bank of America. And I just kind of chuckled, and I'm like, Bank of America is never going to close this deal for you. And she goes, oh no, they know exactly what we're looking for. I talked to the guy the other day and kind of gave him the idea of what this property was. And I said, I can promise you that at the end of the day, Bank of America is not going to be able to close this deal for you. And I explained to her a couple of different things. I said, number one, they're going to end up having a problem that there's two homes on this property. I said, number two, the value of the land on this deal is going to be at least 50 to 60% of the total value of the purchase price. And I said, normally if you're doing a box loan through Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the jumbo mortgages, the value of the land cannot be more than 30%. And I said, when I say the value of the land, that includes the outbuildings, the fencing, anything that kind of makes it a functioning farm, that's included in that 30%. And I said, I'm sure you would agree with me that the value of the land is probably more on this particular home than 30%. She agreed, but she was still very adamant that Bank of America could do this. So I gave her a list of 5 questions to go back and ask her loan officer with Bank of America. And it pertained to the second home that was on the property, the value of the land versus the value of the total property, and a couple of other questions. And she called me back a day later and said, you were right. She said, Bank of America said, yeah, we can't touch that. So who can I use that can get this deal closed? So I referred her to a company called Rural First. They are a division of Farm Credit Services here in East Tennessee, and they specialize in financing farms, raw land, lots that you intend to build on, things like that. So she went through Rural First. She was able to get the financing that she needed, and we were able to complete the purchase. And that was important because A, I didn't let the buyer go down the wrong path of financing and then invest time, money in 30 days and then find out, guess what? They can't do the loan. And then it didn't tie up my seller by wasting his time accepting an offer when we knew up front the buyer's financing wasn't going to work and we had to switch them over to somebody that could get the deal done. So my expertise helps you to save time and not waste time on buyers who cannot buy your property because they don't have the right type of financing. If you want an agent with experience to go to work for you, leave me a comment or send me a DM.